specifics for how you can help manage the spread of bacterial leaf spot, because there are a few different ways that you can attack this, again, from that disease triangle perspective. Environmental conditions are a little bit tougher to manage, but there are definitely some considerations to make. If you can keep your temperatures in the greenhouse pretty moderate, that can actually help slow down infection. Bacterial leaf spot, the temperature range, the optimal temperature range for infection is about 75 to 86 degrees. Now, that's not to say that if you keep your greenhouses cooler that you won't get infection, but the rate at which it's occurring is lower if you can keep your air temps low. And low 70s is, low to mid 70s is kind of that sweet spot for a lot of annual bedding plant crops. You're going to produce higher quality, more toned plants at cooler air temps than higher air temps. So that's beneficial for most of your crops, and also beneficial in helping reduce the severity and infection incidences for Xanthomonas and bacterial leaf spot in tomatoes. Another thing to consider, and I said bacterial leaf spot on tomatoes spreads really easily through splashing water, through irrigation. If you're in a greenhouse operation that's prone to getting a lot of condensation, a lot of moisture buildup on the glazing material, and in the morning you have that greenhouse rain effect. Doing things to manage your relative humidity so that you don't get that sort of indoor raining effect will also help reduce spread of bacterial leaf spot. Because again, it's another source of splashing water. You could be doing such a great job. You could be growing them on flood benches and not a drop of water normally is hitting the canopy. Well, if you've got really high humidity and condensation in your greenhouse raining down on your crops, there you go, splashing water. So something to be mindful of if that is a typical problem in your greenhouse. On the cultural side of things, so this is where we're going back to purchasing seed only from reputable sources. So this bacterial leaf spot is a common pathogen that tomato seed is screened for. So make sure that you're getting your seed from a producer who has tested seed, and if need be, provide some kind of treatment to remediate it if they did find it. Avoid nutrient stressing. So again, looking back at that disease triangle, pathogen presence, optimal environment, and susceptible host. Bacterial pathogens, a lot of bacterial pathogens like to attack when plants are hungry. So when you're basically inducing some kind of stress factor. And one of the things when growing tomato transplants that a lot of growers, and myself personally, like to do is grow them lean. There aren't a lot of different height control strategies that we can use effectively for tomatoes, especially once they're out of that sort of slow initial growth phase and they're in that rapid linear growth phase. So growing them lean is one way. If you withhold a little bit of nutrients, it will restrict their ability to shoot up in height. Well, if you nutrient stress tomatoes too much, you can actually make them more susceptible to infection for bacterial leaf spot. So be mindful of that. So that's kind of a fine line that you have to walk, prioritizing plant size, whether you're a wholesaler who's trying to fit a bunch of plants onto racks to ship them somewhere, or if you're a smaller operation, that priority may be different for different types of growers. But if you are trying to keep your tomatoes relatively compact, try to avoid keeping them too hungry, because again, that'll increase their susceptibility to bacterial leaf spot. And like I said, avoid overhead watering if possible. I know that's not possible for everyone, but especially in the plug stage, how can you not? There are not a lot of growers doing sub-irrigation for plugs in America right now, but you can especially once they start to get a little bigger, just, be mindful of, trying to get that breaker down below the canopy. Try not to touch the leaves too much, but try and water from as low as you possibly can, again, to avoid that water splashing. And then finally, chemical control strategies. So unlike toe barf, we actually can control outbreaks of bacterial leaf spot in tomatoes. Now, the thing is, for bacterial pathogens, much like viral pathogens, once infection has occurred, you can't curatively restore that infected site. So if you have a plant and 3 little lesions start to develop, you can apply different chemistries. Typically, copper-based products are what you're going to find out there that are labeled for controlling bacterial leaf spot and are effective. You're not going to repair those 3 little lesions. However, you will be able to prevent reinfection and spreading of those bacteria on other parts of the plant canopy. Now, that being said, good coverage is critical, because any parts on the leaf surface that you don't actually get this active ingredient onto, they're not protected. So make sure that when you're going through spraying, you're going over the top, and then you're also trying to get underneath the canopy a little bit too. Again, really good coverage is critical. And typically, the largest group of products that are labeled for controlling bacterial leaf spot are copper-based active ingredients of some kind, but there are also some microbial products as well that have shown good efficacy, and that I've personally worked with growers who have had really, achieved really good control of different foliar pathogens using microbial products. So things like cease, that's a microbial, it's a bactericide, fungicide. It's kind of a broad spectrum thing. Provides control for a lot of different diseases. So if you're looking for soft chemistries, or things that are OMRI friendly and so forth, cease is a good one. There's another product called Regalia. It's basically giant knotweed extract, and this one actually should be applied preventatively. So before any incidences of disease, for maximum effect. Same with cease. Now the thing is, with these different bio-based products, you gotta, your application intervals are going to be a little bit closer than some conventional products. But as far as copper-based products, a couple examples. Junction is a copper hydroxide mancozeb product, and there are some studies that have shown better control of bacterial leaf spot with this combination of copper active ingredient and mancozeb. But there are also other products like Badge, which are 2 different types of coppers that are labeled for controlling this disease. Just make sure that for any of these products that you're using for controlling bacterial leaf spot, that if you are doing overhead irrigation, you're being very mindful of that, and that you're tightening that reapplication window, because once you wash off, whether it's a copper-based product or a microbial product, once you wash that product off of the leaf surface, again, that sort of protective layer of armor is gone. So be careful of that. Also, just be mindful, a lot of these copper products, you need to be really careful with your spray solution pH. You need to keep it from getting too acidic, otherwise you can potentially cause phytotoxicity.